Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights and information, please visit mobilityredefined.com. That is mobilityredefined.com. Welcome to the Mobility Redefined podcast, where we explore the innovations and leadership redefining how cities are moving all around the world. I am Dr. Kaan Yildizgoz, and today I am joined by Mr. Ngien Hoon Ping, Chief Executive Officer of SMRT Corporation, which is Singapore's leading multimodal public transport operator. I had the privilege of working closely with Mr. Hoon Ping during his time as CEO of Land Transport Authority of Singapore and now as CEO of SMRT. And it's a real pleasure for us to reconnect today and discuss how SMRT continues to raise the global bar for operational excellence, reliability, and digital innovation. Mr. Hoon Ping, welcome to Mobility Redefined.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your warm words and very kind words. Very happy to support this conversation of cross-learning.
And very happy that we learn from you and your colleagues' experience in SMRT. I often say if there was a country called public transport in the world, Singapore would be its capital city because of many innovations you are leading and putting in operation in Singapore from different perspectives, from your operations, from your governance. And today we will explore how SMRT is shaping the next chapter of Singapore's public transport story, balancing people and technology to keep the city moving smarter, cleaner, and more reliable than ever. And I would like to start with the first question, more about one point which I always admire and take SMRT as an example. It's on the reliability and operational experience. So we know that Singapore's public transport system is admired worldwide for its reliability, discipline, and service culture. And you are recording always some of the lowest delay minutes per train kilometer globally. How do you sustain such a world-class performance every day, Mr. Hoon Ping? What principles, culture, and systems you are putting in place to make sure about this level of operational excellence?
First, thank you for your very kind words to us, SMRT Corporation, and also to Singapore. To be very honest, we are really on a journey of learning. In SMRT, we believe in the whole framework and the idea of Kaizen. I'm sure you heard of Kaizen before, which is about continuous improvement, continually becoming better. And it's about a journey to perfection. And therefore, by definition, we will never really arrive there. But that precisely is the whole spirit of us wanting to improve ourselves, because we believe that whatever we do today, even if it's good, will be better tomorrow. And where we may have made mistakes, there are things for us to learn. We'll learn it and then we'll improve and become better tomorrow. So that's the sort of attitude we take. And in fact, since 1987, that's when SMRT started to operate trains, beginning with trains and then subsequently buses, taxis, and as you mentioned, multimodal transportation. It's really a whole spectrum of work that we need to do. But really our focus has been and will continue to be on our people. All right, people from two aspects. One is our own people, our operators, our engineers, our management staff, our frontline staff, our service ambassadors, how they can feel that whole culture of Kaizen, improving themselves every day, whatever they do, focusing on the mission to serve our commuters, providing them safe, reliable, and customer-centric commute for them every single day. So that's about gearing our people up to have that focus. And the second part about people is really the people we serve, really our commuters. And so the people centricity in everything we do is very core. We would say that in terms of how we look at issues, we focus on a few pillars. I think the first is operational excellence. We want to make sure that everything we do, first and foremost, is safe, reliable, and dependable. Whenever you take a train, a bus, or a taxi or private hire car, you will get there, all right? And it's safe. The second one has to do with customer-centric services. So we make sure that even on the train ride, it's exciting, right? There are the shops, there are interesting retail, there's along the transit system that you can go into, can experience, interesting advertising panels as well for you to be aware of what's happening around. And then also strategic partnerships. We have been partnering with many entities, not just commercial, but also with banks and with agencies as well, government agencies, to provide a whole, very holistic way of serving our commuters. And lastly, of course, innovation and technological advancement, which you spoke about, which is how do we use digital AI and a range of capabilities to serve our commuters better, provide them with timely information, making their journeys interesting. But underlying it, as I said, as I started off with saying, it's really about our people and getting them really believing in what we do and contributing to this mission every single day.
That's a perfect way to give me also a nice introduction to the discussion, Mr. Hoon Ping. And you were talking about digitalization and smart operations. I know that's a very big priority for you, and SMRT is leading the way with digital transformation from predictive maintenance to depots powered by artificial intelligence and automation. And I know that this is a big priority for SMRT now. Can you share how these innovations are transforming daily operations? Like what kind of tangible impacts have you seen in your depot management and so on while you are implementing all these recent practices?
Thank you. So when we look at the entire train services, for example, we look at the entire value chain. So it starts off with trains being well maintained at the depot. And that's the reason why we spend time, effort, and money as well. We work with a company called CRC Sifang, a Chinese train manufacturer, actually, an OEM. We gave them our operational inputs and they brought along their technologies, and we transformed the oldest depot, the Bishan depot, into a brand new high-tech AI-enabled depot. What does it do for us? First, it actually doubled the productivity. Instead of being able to overhaul only 2 trains per month, currently we are now able to do 4. So you actually double the productivity. And at the same time, it has significantly reduced the number of people we need in terms of working on this same task. Now, that doesn't mean that we no longer need our staff, because in truth, many of our staff are aging. So we're talking about lesser headcount requiring to do the same work. And for some of our other staff, they can then focus on more value-adding work. So on a net basis, our people grow with the technology as well, and they don't have to carry heavy equipment, tools, or the parts, the subsystems themselves. And so they are overall healthier, they don't get injured. So underlying the whole Depot 4.0 innovation is about a very human-centric process. It's about actually making the work of our human staff better, more dignified. And so as a result, we actually require lesser people. That's because we care for our people and make sure that they can do more meaningful work. They don't get themselves injured unnecessarily during their work. So therein, we have Depot 4.0, automated, AI-enabled to double the workload that we previously had. And then moving a bit more front, which is when we run our trains on a daily basis, there's, of course, predictive maintenance. We have a maintenance and engineering center, which has been in operation for a few years. In fact, other operators are only starting to catch up, and you hear about those that they advertise. But actually, for SMRT, we have been working on that for quite a number of years, and we are improving on it as part of the Kaizen process, embedding it with AI. So we have this software actually called Overwatch, which you may have heard of it during UITP. We won a prize for it. It really taps into AI and allow us to actually manage operations or any sort of disruption a lot better, faster, more accurately. And we have other software, they are AI enabled as well, like our iSecurity that enables us to manage security incidents, prevent them from happening better. And also we have a track access management system, because every night we have so many technicians working on the tracks. Boss, rest of Singapore is sleeping, thousands of workers are on the track. You can imagine the challenge of managing their access to the tracks and then making sure that they work safely. So we have a track access management system. So this whole journey of digitalization, frankly, SMRT has been on it for a number of years. I don't take any credit. I was CEO of LTA. Of course, I'm supportive of what SMRT does. And SMRT has on its own taken a lot of this initiative. So now moving even more front to where we actually interact with our commuters, we have an app called the Wing Plus app, which provides a timely, useful lifestyle information. Example, you go to any station, any line, we have configured it such that it includes all lines, including lines that we don't actually operate. From a commuter perspective, you can know what are the offerings, the retail, and fun things that you can do in our MRT system. The whole idea being to make the transit more interesting, more enjoyable. We want more people to take public transport, which I believe that you being part of UITP would like to encourage as well. Not just for trains, but also for buses. So you can see the entire digitalization and use of AI across the entire spectrum from depot to the front, where we actually meet our commuters with that goal of improving things, making things even more human-centric and safer.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hoon Ping. It was a great insight about your journey towards Depot 4.0. And I was following the news about UITP awards that you were winning in the last summit with the Overwatch. It was a very impressive project. And very frankly speaking, I am now about to finalize my NIV book about the future of mobility, hopefully next year to be published. And I was giving reference even in my book about your depot. So that was very important for me. I was giving a reference. I was looking some information available on your website. So because it is really setting a bar in the global transit industry. And here, from this perspective, you were talking a lot about your stuff, and at the same time, we were talking about technology. And even as operations become more automated, people remain the foundation of public
business. Yes.
And how do you balance automation with human experience, ensuring your workforce is empowered, recycled, and motivated in the era of digitalization?
Okay, first of all, I would like to welcome you. And if you have a chance to come by Singapore before you finish your book, to come and take a look at our Depot 4.0 and some of the innovation. In fact, at the same place where Depot 4.0 is, we have established a Kaizen center, and you are warmly welcome. We'll be happy to personally host you right before you finish your books, and I'm sure you can benefit from taking a few photographs to be weaved into your book. So on your question about how do you marry the two, the human and the tech, I think first of all, it's about our mental frame. To us, whatever we do in terms of digitalization and AI, it's in the end, first and foremost, and in the end about our human. And so in all the conceptualization on the use of AI and tech, we involve our people, we involve our engineers, we involve our frontline. So for instance, in Depot 4.0, when we went about to improve and to automate and to use more robots, we actually got our frontline technicians for them to give us their inputs. How would that entire maintenance operation be safer for them? How will it be better for them? All right. And it is not a case where a small little group of people in the headquarters have got this grand idea about how a big piece of equipment, a capital expense that you do can now remove the need for X number of people. It's never like that. It's always about what is it that we can do from an operations technology angle. What is the operational need? What is our technology offering that can actually help operations better? And we involve the human so that our people are with the change rather than against the change. Where transformation sometimes fail because there's a lack of trust. The workers feel that the management is thinking of something to actually do away with their jobs. But that's never our approach. We're always very open. We share with them, look, our company is of this size and our workforce is shrinking as well. At the same time, it's not easy to recruit people into the industry. We have people joining us, but not that easy because the life as a SMRT engineer and technician is a very tough one, right? It's 24 hours, including for me, every one of us, CEO down to the last, it's a tough job. So in a way, we also want to be able to see how our staff can get their work done more readily. So for instance, even in the extreme, when we do have sometimes we do have disruptions, the whole idea of how the information gets curated, the infographics are all done by machine language and AI. So in a way, through the clever use of AI and digital apps, we can shorten the decision cycle. But the last and final decision will still be made by the human, the train operator, the train engineer who makes that last call. And that's where the training of the human mind, the expertise building, together with the AI, together with digital, will bring forth the best. Even in the corporate area, we have streamlined our management reports to just dashboards, summarized key findings, KPIs about the company. My board has real-time information about the company finance, retention, attrition, and MKBF, real-time, anywhere in the world, all the time. They don't have to ask me anymore, and there's nothing to hide. So what happens to the people who used to compile these reports? Oh, they are now involved in actual business. I've redeployed some of our teams to be involved in business development, working on P&L areas. And so net, we create more value. So digitalization, AI for us is about a human, it's about creating more value. It's not just about efficiency and productivity.
And certainly, all these works that you are doing, it has a result in terms of the customer experience in Singapore. And then what I know is that Singaporean commuters are having always high expectations. They have high expectations. I think it's good. It's very good for transit agencies or for operators to have such kind of high expectations to keep them up fit always and raising the bar. So and then you are doing this as SMRT, certainly. And from this perspective, are there any other initiatives now, maybe you can share with us, SMRT driving to elevate the passenger experience and so on? Is there anything else that you would like to add, Mr. Hoon Ping?
So, as I said, in order to make commute more interesting and make stations more part and parcel of the Singaporean life and culture, over the last 2 to 3 years, we actually introduced this community in station project where we bring in local art, local history, and convert them in about 35 stations. And that affinity between the commuters and the residents towards this station has increased. And why do we do so? Because we want them to feel responsible for the infrastructure and to love it and not to vandalize it. And that when things do happen, they are part and parcel of working together with us to find solutions. In fact, some of our stations now host table tennis tables, pianos, even health check, right? We have like people able to take their blood pressure and all that. So we're bringing all this fun stuff into our stations. In fact, we are the pace setter. Other operators are catching up. They're getting on the idea, a bit slow, but coming on stream. So we are shaping it. And of course, we didn't just come up with these ideas ourselves. We learned from other operators overseas as well. We know that in Taiwan, TRTC, they do some of these things, and in China and rest of Europe. And so we try to bring the best ideas into Singapore. We have in fact structured the operational team into also the service excellence team and the community engagement team. So sometimes we do get feedback from commuters or residents around the train stations or the train network about noise. So we help to engage them positively. And then for the service excellence, we proactively send our people to, in fact, Singapore Airlines for training, because we think Singapore Airlines, in terms of service, is one of the highest in the world. And so we actually send our people there to learn. And there's been some innovation too. Like, for instance, we host Taylor Swift concerts and many other concerts in Singapore. So whilst the commuters are waiting for the trains, and especially when the concert is just over, you can imagine tens and hundreds of thousands of people now moving themselves to the train station. We play music of Taylor Swift, of course, if it's Taylor Swift concert. And so the whole experience of coming out from the concert, waiting to embark on the train is actually a positive one. In fact, we have many TikTok capture of those very pleasant moments. So we think creatively and we learn from the best. We learn from Singapore Airlines, we learn from other operators and bring some of these ideas into being every single day.
I think that's great, especially hearing that Singapore Airlines, you have a partnership. And then it's now I understand that how you as SMRT is having like an airline type of quality, in particular Singapore Airlines. When I first started my career 20 years ago, I was working for Metro Istanbul. And Singapore was my first official visit. It was mainly to see how finding the ways, how we can be increasing the feeling of perception of security and customer experience. This was the main things. And I remember I came back with a lot of ideas from Singapore after meeting some colleagues from SMRT and LTA. So this was very useful. And then I see how you keep running and putting on it on your experience. And one particular topic in transit industry, in public transport, we talk a lot last 10 to 20 years is sustainability, energy transition, and decarbonization. And I know SMRT, you also have the buses as well. When we talk about the buses, one point always we talk is about fleet electrification, or in addition to this, on the rail side or the bus side, we talk about energy efficient depots. So how are your recent practices about the sustainability and energy transition in SMRT?
Okay, first of all, we don't own the assets. Many of the assets, in fact, are owned by LTA. And LTA has been pushing for the use of electric trains, electric buses. And you hear today the news, LTA is buying more than 600 buses coming online in Singapore. So first of all, we promote and support that whole effort. We train up the workforce. They know how to operate and maintain all this electrified equipment. But more than that, on our own, we have worked with Hitachi Rail on the green CBTC signaling system. CBTC stands for Communication Based Train Control System. And we've been able to save a lot of energy, up to 8% reduction in energy consumption. And that's almost more than the yearly electricity use of 3,000 households. And we are actually doing more on the area. We also proactively work with LTA to install solar panels in our depots where we can. And we have not gone into energy storage systems here. We are still in discussion, but these are the sort of ideas we are having. And this goes way beyond telling our people to conserve energy, not to use paper, use more electronic means of communication. So we are actually progressing that continuously. It's not at the speed that we want, but gradually it is actually moving. And we believe that every ounce of CO2 we can eliminate and not have to bring into the environment, it is something worth doing. So for our taxi fleet, which we own, we do have electric taxis and hybrid taxis. So where we can, where the assets belong to us, we are also greening them as much as we can.
Thank you. It's great to hear also your work. And you are right to spot this one. I was forgetting this. The assets about the buses, the vehicles are owned and procured by authority in Singapore. That's a unique model that you have in Singapore, where the operators are running the assets owned and procured by authority in Singapore. And one question, this is also a question that I personally wonder. It's more about your plans in terms of exporting Singapore's excellence, SMRT's excellence to overseas, to the other countries. I know in the past there were some advisory roles, consulting roles SMRT was involving. I wonder, what are your plans for the future? Do you plan to bring your experience more to the other countries? Especially, I personally, as a public transport lover, I would prefer to see more public transport in other countries at the excellence level of SMRT. I hope that you can be also maybe one day to run the trains or buses in other countries. But what are your plans for the future to bring your excellence and your experience outside the country?
Maybe I explain a little bit about some of our internal transformation over the past few years. We have actually restructured our company to two distinct groups. We call the Engine A and Engine B. Engine A comprises SMRT trains and SMRT buses. And these two entities focus primarily on the Singapore market. So this is where we serve, and we preserve that name for the Singapore market. So it also assures the Singaporean public that that strong focus is there. But we've created two other brands. One is called Strides, as in STRIDEs. It's a short form for Singapore Transport Rights. And then we have Stella, which is the advertising and retail subsidiary that we have. Now, within Strides, actually, we provide a whole range of services, which includes engineering, operations, consultancy, and various other tech. Like, for instance, where we have developed in-house tech like Overwatch, we are prepared to share those capabilities with anyone in the world who finds it useful. Now, our attitude towards overseas partners and fellow operators in a UITP circuit or COMET would be value adding. We are not, in a way, one where we say we must plant a big flag and the Strides name is known in a very big way. We are not a listed company, so we don't feel that pressure that we have to do this. But at the same time, we are happy to work with other operators. So, for instance, we have Keolis. Keolis is a very famous French rail operator and, in fact, multimodal as well. So we're happy to partner with them where they venture into new markets. And there have been other operators in Asia as well who have come and sought our support as well in various niche areas. This could be knowledge of running driverless trains. It could be in our knowledge in using digital and AI capabilities, or it could just be our operational experience or service excellence SOPs. So we cast the net wider. So it's less so about planting a flag than really value adding. And in some cases, some of the operators just want to have a visit to us. We're gladly there to host them. Or sometimes they may send people to SMRT, to our institute, to train them. We are happy to do that as well. So it's really about value creation and not doing for the sake of doing. So I thought, just wanted to share this with you. Well, some may argue that perhaps we're not having a wide enough ambition, but ironically, I think as we focus more on value adding to our partners, there are more and more partners coming to us. And the partners are interesting. They're not just operators, they're OEMs as well. OEMs who find that the way we operate their assets is something that they like us to share back the data that we have when we operate their assets. And in some cases, our Strikes, one of the Strikes subsidiaries, we call it Strikes Technology, is able to do certain depot level repair. And so some of the OEMs in the region actually would like to work with us. So we have within the Strikes group, we have Strikes Engineering, Strikes Technologies, Strikes Digital, Strikes Premier, one whole range. Anything to do with mobility, land mobility, we have it. And these are the entities that are happy to serve anywhere else in the world. And while we keep SMRT trains and SMRT bus singly focused on serving the Singapore public, and in some ways setting the standard.
It's a great approach of making sure that your focus and you have the right focus on the Singapore, but also you are putting some angles how you can be bringing your experience to other places. So it's a very good approach. And before we conclude, I have maybe a few very small questions. And one is that we talk a lot of things, Mr. Hoon Ping, and we are coming to the end of 2025. Now 2026 is starting. And if you look ahead 230 or 235, what do you want SMRT to be recognized for? Is there any one thing that you define as part of your strategy in terms of you to be recognized 5 to 10 years from now on?
Well, there'll be two aspects. One is the domestic and one is beyond our borders. I think domestically, we want the brand to be a trusted brand. So whenever you bought a SMRT train, SMRT operated train or SMRT operated taxi or bus, you feel safe. You feel that your children, your daughter, your spouse who's on any of these platforms will be safe and they arrive home safely and on time. And we want our people domestically in Singapore to feel that emotional attraction. Like I met my girlfriend on the train actually, or I dated her on the train, stuff like that. Things that bring back that sweet memories. Or it was because of trains that I was able to go to a school in the West, although I stay in the East. We hope that SMRT, that brand, will evoke all these kind of positive sentiments. And then beyond our borders, we hope that you'll be in some way a reference point for other companies as well, that we can learn from them. They can benchmark with us. And it's a trusted brand, right? And it's synonymous with the name Singapore. So SMRT represents Singapore, and we also are part of the ecosystem to carry that standard everywhere in the world. So that's what I hope we can see in 2035.
I must admit that I already see SMRT from these angles because I'm a figure data-driven person and I know your safety figures from your reports. If anyone, when I look at the number of accidents per million kilometer, let's say for the buses, your figures are standalone, certainly, if I compare with multiple cities, and I always feel safe myself. And then it's very good to hear that your intention is to bring this further. And on a personal level, Mr. Hoon Ping, you are an executive in the industry many years. You are one of the key figures. And what drives you most about leading a company that quite literally keeps a nation moving and keeps the innovation happening? Is there anything on your personal level that you can share with us before we conclude as well?
Well, I think for me, it's very simple, as in this is my country. And if I have something that I can contribute with, whether it's my experience, my network, or my knowledge, I will do so. And I also personally hope to see SMRT becoming really transformed and strengthened as a people-first organization. Just to share, this year is Singapore 60 years already as a country, SMRT 38. And instead of, let's say, splurging $1 million on some big function to celebrate for ourselves, we have actually given that money by way of electronic card, we call it the NETS flash card. We embedded it with money and given it to persons with disabilities so that they can take our trains and buses. And these cards are given to them and their caregivers. We administer it through Singapore Enable, which is an agency that helps take care of or support people with such needs. So we work with them. We give them that roughly the amount of money through this card. So each card have a preload value of about $38. So we can give it to a lot more people. So that's the corporate memory I want my people to remember. Like they ask, what did we do in SG60? What did we do in SMRT 38? So, okay, we actually gave these cards to help those people in our society who may need some support. And I always say that you don't have to be rich to be generous. We are not a very well endowed company. We do have our own challenges on finance. We do our best. Fares are low. We do have grants. We're trying to grow the Strides and Stellar businesses so that we can help cross-subsidize the trains, maintenance, operations. But that doesn't mean that just because we are not so financially well endowed that we cannot be generous. So I think that's really the culture, the attitudes that we have, well, we want to have. And what I would say motivates me each day when I wake up is to think about this whole idea of a happier workplace where things can be tough, the work can be tough, but we are united, we are committed, and then we look forward and we Kaizen all the way. Thank you, Dr. Kaan.
Thank you, Mr. Hoon Ping. Thank you for sharing such insightful perspectives from SMRT's digital transformation and sustainability journey to your deep focus on people and reliability. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the Mobility Redefined podcast. I also want to thank to our listeners for tuning in and your colleagues who was cooperating with us for preparing this podcast. Stay with us for more conversations and with the leaders redefining how the world is moving. Thank you for listening to Mobility Redefined, brought to you by Modaxo. For more insights, visit our website at mobilityredefined.com or follow us on LinkedIn. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app to stay updated with our latest episodes. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the conversation.